The outsider president-elect taps an insider, Reince Priebus, to run his White House and sparks backlash with his pick for chief strategist. The president-elect gives his first TV interview since the election, addressing reports of racism and violence by his supporters.
And I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
Now his new chief of staff joins us this morning.
Devastating blaze. More than 40 wildfires tear through the southeast, burning 70,000 acres. 8 states on alert. The dangerous smoke warnings, parts of North Carolina in a code red, as residents are warned to wear masks or evacuate.
Twin murder mystery. The yoga instructor arrested again, accused of killing her identical twin by driving off a 200-foot cliff in Hawaii. Witnesses say they were fighting. Was it murder or a tragic accident?
And dramatic finish. Former Super Bowl rivals, the Patriots and the Seahawks, in a final second showdown.
There was a lot of contact and no call.
The incomplete pass that has fans crying foul. The Seahawks getting ultimate revenge, what Tom Brady is saying this morning.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And good morning, America. Happy Monday. And take a look at what we saw here in New York this Monday morning, 6:22 a.m. That super moon, it looks like a movie when you see that plane go right by. Just gorgeous.
It's actually called a super duper moon, and it is that. But first, overnight, more protests erupted over Donald Trump's election for the 5th day in a row as Trump sat down for his first TV interview.
Transfer of power is underway in Washington. President-elect Trump has made his first 2 key appointments. We're going to hear from the incoming White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus, in a moment. But first, our Tom Yamas is here with a look at the new team. Good morning, Tom.
George, good morning to you. The Trump West Wing coming together. The president-elect huddled with advisors in Trump Tower, building out his leadership team. And if his first picks are any indication of the future, Trump will have a White House made up of 2 very different factions of the Republican Party. President-elect Trump, the ultimate outsider, hiring Reince Priebus, the ultimate insider, to run his White House.
I'll tell you, Reince is really a star, and he is the hardest working guy.
On election night, Trump thanking Priebus and forcing him to take the mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump. Thank you. It's been an honor. God bless. Thank God. You bet.
Amazing guy.
But during the primaries, Trump felt a much different way, locked in a constant battle with RNC Chairman Reince Priebus about the way he was being treated by the establishment in the party.
The bottom line is the RNC is controlled by the establishment, and the RNC is controlled by the special interests and the donors. And that's too bad, because that's not good for the... And that's why the Republican Party for president has lost so much for so long.
But another Trump hire may calm those Trump loyalists. Suspect of the Priebus pick, Stephen Bannon, the one-time Goldman Sachs banker and until recently executive chairman at Breitbart, a right-wing opinion and news site. Bannon is considered a leader of the so-called alt-right movement, a number of organizations, including the Council on American Islamic Relations and the Anti-Defamation League, denouncing the hire overnight. The ADL saying in a statement, "It is a sad day when a man who presided over the premier website of the alt-right, a loose-knit group of white nationalists and unabashed anti-Semites and racists, is slated to be a senior staff member in the People's House." Bannon, who left Breitbart to join Trump's campaign in August, actually got top billing in the Trump release. He moves from campaign chairman to White House chief strategist and senior counselor. Now, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which among other things tracks hate crimes, has called Breitbart's coverage under Bannon racist, homophobic, and anti-immigrant. George?
Okay, Tom, thanks very much.
We're going to move on now to that new interview with Donald Trump, his first television sit-down since being elected president. He discussed some of his most controversial campaign promises and how he plans to implement them. ABC's Cecilia Vega has more. Good morning, Cecilia.
Robin, good morning to you. He said he was going to build a wall. He said he would repeal Obamacare. He said he wanted Hillary Clinton in jail. But now Donald Trump seems to be softening his stance on some of those key campaign promises. In his first televised interview since winning, Donald Trump says he is saddened about reports of racial slurs and violence by some of his supporters. The president-elect speaking directly to those people.
Don't do it. That's terrible, because I'm going to bring this country together.
They're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it if it helps. I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
On 60 Minutes, he also seemed to walk back some key campaign promises. From that border wall.
Would you accept a fence?
For certain areas I would, but certain areas the wall is more appropriate. I'm very good at this. This is called construction.
To appointing a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about it. She
I
did
know,
some
but
bad
a
things.
special prosecutor?
I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. They're good people.
Trump refusing to say whether he'll put troops on the ground to fight ISIS.
I don't want to tell anybody anything.
Yeah, but what
I want
about
to
the
do
American
job.
people?
We have great generals.
You said you knew more than the generals about ISIS.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I probably do, because look at the job they've done. All I can tell you is we're going to get rid of ISIS.
And on the Supreme Court?
Are you looking to appoint a justice who wants to overturn Roe v. Wade?
I'm pro-life. The judges will be pro-life. They'll be.
But what about overturning
well, there are a
this
couple
law?
of things. If it ever were overturned, it would go back to the states. So
Yeah,
it
but
would
then
go back to the states.
Some
and the
women
states.
won't be able to get an abortion.
Well, they'll perhaps
But
have
do
to go
you
to
want-
they'll have to go to another state.
And that's
I mean,
okay.
Well, we'll see what happens.
In his penthouse apartment, his family by his side, Melania Trump says she's ready for the responsibility ahead.
I will stay true to myself. I'm very strong and tough and confident, and I will listen myself and I will do what is right and what feels to my heart.
But Ivanka Trump saying she's not going to the White House in a formal role.
No, I'm going to be a daughter, but I've said throughout the campaign that I'm very passionate about certain issues and that I want to fight for them. Wage equality, childcare, these are things that are very important for me, but not in a formal administrative capacity.
Now, Donald Trump says he will give up the president's $400,000 annual salary while in the White House. But the one thing he doesn't seem ready to give up, Twitter. He says if he tweets as President George, he will be, quote, very restrained.
And thank you, Cecilia. Now let's bring in the President-elect's new Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Thank you for joining us this morning. Congratulations on the new job. What are the three most important things you want to accomplish in the White House in the first 100 days?
Well, I think the most important things are the three things that he outlined, that President-elect Trump outlined in the campaign, getting his arms around our foreign policy and our position around the world, obviously dealing with our immigration issues and concentrating on Obamacare, and I'll just add one more, tax reform. So I think we have an opportunity to do all of those things, given the fact that we've got the House and the Senate, and we have an eager Congress ready to get work done.
There has been some reaction, though, to the pick of Steve Bannon as the chief strategist inside the White House. I have a couple questions about that. In the press release yesterday, it said you were going to be equal partners with Mr. Bannon. How exactly is that going to work? Who's in charge?
Well, I mean, the White House Chief of Staff is always generally responsible for the day-to-day operation of the White House. It's an operations role, but it's also an advisory role to the president. You know, the way that we've operated the last few months is Steve and I have formed a great partnership in advising President-elect Trump together. And that's what it really is talking to him together, getting ourselves on the same page. It seemed to work very well on the campaign. I think you've seen, especially over the last few months, that Donald Trump's been very disciplined, and he's also been very comfortable and on message and clear-minded. And look what happened on Tuesday. I mean, it was an electoral landslide, and the American people agreed that Donald Trump's vision for America is what this country has been waiting for, and it was one of the most historical wins in modern history.
The Electoral College, significant lead in the Electoral College, as you know, he lost the popular vote. But I want to ask another question about Mr. Bannon. There's been a strong...
But George, look, can I say something about that? Look, unfortunately or fortunately, this is an election that takes place in about 12 states. If Donald Trump wanted to spend 3 months in California, New York, and he would have won the popular vote. So he played the exact strategy that a smart person would play in the 12 states that mattered, and he won significantly. So I get the obsession over the popular vote, but that's really not what this election was all about.
No question he won the presidency fair and square. I was just pointing out that fact. But let me ask that question about Mr. Bannon. As you know, there's been a strong reaction. The Anti-Defamation League says he is hostile to core American values. You have the top aide to Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid saying this signals that white supremacists will be represented at the highest levels of the Trump White House. How do you respond to that?
Well, look, first of all, I don't know where they're coming from. And that's not the Steve Bannon that I know. I have sat with him for months. I have never, ever, one time experienced that. And
well, they're looking at the Breitbart website.
People are taking it way too far. What I would say, okay, look, what I would say is you have to look at the person. I think you have to get to know the person. And I think if people understood that we have a naval officer, a Harvard Business School, London School of Economics. This is a very, very smart person who's serving as a senior counsel to the president. I mean, I think you're going to be a lot of announcements of a lot of people, but I find him not to be the way that he's being accused. I find him to be the opposite, and I think people need to give people time and give people an opportunity and not make judgments. Don't judge people based on what other people say.
Finally, the Wall Street Journal is reporting this morning that Mr. Trump and his staff seemed surprised by the scope of the job when they went and visited President Obama at the White House, and that President Obama plans to spend more time with him than presidents typically do because he thinks Trump needs more guidance. Did you see that? And does Mr. Trump want that kind of additional counsel from President Obama?
Well, first of all, they had a great meeting, and I think that they were impressed with each other, and I know that President-elect Trump was very impressed and very pleased with their meeting. I didn't see that, and I wasn't there, to tell you the truth, and I haven't heard those things. What I see is a president-elect that is getting prepared. I see a staff in New York that is very busy doing the best job that they can for the American people, and I see President-elect Trump being very calm and cool and collected and prepared to lead the American people.
And the president-elect will be making more announcements this week?
It could be this week, it could be next week, but they are working very diligently on transition. It is, as you know, because you've been there, George, it is a ton of work, but it's work that has to get done, and it will get done and will lead for every American in this country. And I predict that in 20 and 30 years, they will write books about this president and how well he did and how he followed through with his promises, and that the American people loved the job that President-elect Trump did.
Reince Priebus, big new job. Congratulations again.
You bet. Thank you.
Robin?
All right, George, we're going to bring in ABC's Matt Dowd. He's down home in Austin, Texas, and Cecilia and Tom remain with us here in the studio. Going to start with you first, Matt. You just heard George's interview. What do you make of Donald Trump's first two appointments, Priebus and Bannon?
Well, it's interesting, Robin. I mean, Donald Trump's obviously demonstrating, again, a split personality in this, and consistency has never been a hallmark of Donald Trump. He one time described himself as saying maybe there's two Donald Trumps. I think what you're going to see here is the question becomes is what are the lines of authority and how does information flow? For a president of the United States, information flow is the most important thing because that's what they base their decisions on. And the question becomes with these distinct camps, is it a team of rivals? Or does it become a Lord of the Flies, and we don't know it?
We don't know yet, but we've also seen that same kind of balancing by President-elect Trump throughout in his public statements over the course of the last week. Some conciliation, some sticking to his guns.
Yeah, I think, George, I think he's made a lot of the right statements over the course of this, but ultimately, as you know, presidents are going to be judged on their actions. Appointments to the White House, in my view, and the staff are more important than the cabinet because they determine what the president sees, what he hears, and how he ultimately makes those decisions. So all of us have great hope and are giving him a chance in all this, but Americans are going to judge him on his actions.
Cecilia, we heard from Donald Trump this week, and we also heard from Hillary Clinton, and she had some comments concerning the FBI director and the impact he may have had.
Yeah, this was in a phone call with donors. She essentially is blaming the FBI director and his letters for her losing the race. She say these letters, even the ones that cleared her in the end, stopped her momentum and gave Trump this boost he needed, especially with white suburban women who were kind of on the fence. She also said, Robin, that she is heartbroken about the results of the election and no comments on her future plans from her. yet.
No comments yet.
No.
And Tom, we've seen the first interview now from President-elect Trump, the first appointments as well. On tap now, Secretary of State Supreme Court pick.
That's right, as well as Attorney General. We think Rudy Giuliani is a contender for the Secretary of State post, and we'll see how that plays out over the next week. Senator Jeff Sessions, a contender, too, for the Attorney General role. The Supreme Court, I think, will come a little bit later down the line, but that's something they're all working on right now.
And Matt Dowd, what more should President-elect Trump do speaking out? Now, you saw him say last night to those people who are engaged in racist kind of incidents, stop it. Does he need to do more there?
Well, I think the President-elect Trump needs to actually make a speech and makes a concerted effort and not just a one-off stop it, which I think was actually good in this. I think he needs to stand up and say enough's enough, to quiet this down and actually speak to the country. Right now, the country, a majority of the country, is not proud of this election, and I think he has to figure out a way to move them to pride in this election.
All right, Matt, thank you very much, Tom, Cecilia. And we're going to hear from the current president later today. President Obama will hold a press conference. He'll be taking questions for the first time since Donald Trump's election. And George, of course, you'll be
right after 3 o'clock.
At special. Now let's go to Amy with the morning's other top stories. This earthquake in New Zealand.
That's right, Robin. Dozens of aftershocks now have jolted New Zealand after that magnitude 7.8 earthquake. At least 2 people were killed, and the prime minister warns that death toll could go higher. Some small towns in the south cut off, stranding tourists. And check out this aerial view. Look at that. These are cows that became stranded on a patch of land after the earthquake triggered a landslide, leaving them on top of that small hill. Well, Iraqi soldiers have recaptured a symbolically significant town from ISIS. 2 years ago, ISIS fighters destroyed treasures from the ancient city of Nimrud, dating back to 3,000 years. Now, Iraqi forces have taken control of that village, although clashes are reported nearby, not that far from Mosul. Back here in this country, hundreds of people have gathered in Northern California to mourn the loss of a sheriff's deputy who police say was executed while investigating a suspicious vehicle. Dennis Wallace was shot twice in the head. He is the 5th California law enforcement officer killed on duty in 2 months. A suspect is now in custody. And Toyota is agreeing to pay billions of dollars to settle a lawsuit filed by SUV and truck owners. That suit claims 1.5 million vehicles made between 2005 and 2010 lacked adequate rust protection. Toyota will now pay $3.4 billion. And tributes are pouring in for Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Leon Russell.
I'm up on the tight wire. One side's ice and one is fire.
Russell responsible for hits like Tightrope and A Song for You. Elton John calling him an inspiration. Leon Russell died in his sleep at home in Nashville. He was 74. And finally, a tough night for Tom Brady and the Patriots. With time running out, Brady had one last play to tie it, but it's incomplete. The big question, was that pass interference? There was no call from the ref. So Seattle wins 31-24 after the game. Brady said sometimes you get the call, sometimes you don't. But I have to say, looks like last night Tom Brady's ego was deflated.
Ooh.
Was that too soon?
Too soon.
A little harsh.
I mean, you know, a little tough for him. All right, I'm just going to sip my coffee now. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
We're going to go to Rob and talk about those wildfires.
I mean, he did look deflated, but he took the high road in what he said, all right? Fires, this is a bad situation. Across 8 states now, over 70,000 acres have burned. This is out of Georgia. This one's the biggest one, but across the border in Chattanooga, take a look at this video. Highway 27, these brush fires just kind of fire up where people are trying to get to where they need to be. North Carolina is seeing the brunt of the action as far as the fires go there, with 2 counties seeing evacuation orders and big-time smoke issues. And here's one of them in Lake Lure, North Carolina. Satellite picture, this is visible from this weekend. Look at all the smoke getting back through Huntsville, Alabama, Birmingham, down to Atlanta. Asheville just surrounded by smoke and fire. They are under code red as far as air quality is concerned. Had some rain in the Carolinas, but it didn't get to the fires. This is going to be moving up the East Coast as we go through the next 24 hours. Time now for your Select Cities, brought to you by WeatherTech.
Son of a Blitzen, you're never gonna believe this. It looks like half the world has WeatherTech floor liners on their wish list. What are we gonna do? Pull yourself together, man. Fire up the cocoa, add 3 shots of espresso, and tell those WeatherTech elves to pick up the pace with extra peppermint.
Laser-measured WeatherTech floor liners make the perfect gift. Check out the full line of automotive accessories at WeatherTech.com. Happy holidays from WeatherTech.
What are you doing? Adding to my list.
Well, a warm jacket on when you step out the door today, and grab the umbrella because you're going to need it starting at about lunchtime. Best chance of showers is late afternoon right through the overnight period. Our temperatures move from the 30s to the 50s, upper 50s for a high temperature. Best rain today will be south of D.C. up until, again, we get into the late afternoon to evening hours. Rain moves out tomorrow. We're in the 60s for the remainder of the work week and 65 to 70 the upcoming weekend.
Coming up, the woman arrested for the second time, charged with killing her identical twin, accused of driving her SUV